I want you to take a second and tell me if you've experienced any of these things. Maybe you walk up to a girl and try and talk to her and she just flat out ignores you. Or maybe you walk up and talk to her and she'll tolerate you and talk to you, but it's just like 1 and 2 word answers. She seems to wish you were gone. Or maybe she'll engage with you in pleasant conversation, but as soon as you ask for anything and answer even her name or a handshake, it seems like there's immediate resistance and she doesn't want to go any further. All of these are symptoms of not hooking the set. You're missing one fundamental component, which is one of the most important and least understood in all of game. And frankly, even the people who teach game do not understand what hooking is. You hear a lot of terrible advice about what hooking is. You hear things like, just keep talking, which can work in some cases, but it's really just throwing darts at a wall and hoping they, land in the right place. Or you can hear self-amuse, which is a little bit better. It's throwing, I guess, more powerful darts at the wall, or darts that are a little more likely to hit a particular area. But it's still very, very random, and it still misses the point of what's actually going on in terms of hooking her attention, hooking her interest, even potentially getting her to chase. As this is one of the most important elements in all of game, I'm going to give you a simple structure that you can use to repeatedly, reliably go from hello to I'm interested.
Hey, excuse me. Hey. Sorry, you look adorably studious right now. Yeah. I saw the screenplay over there. I'm like, is that the last one she wrote?
The what?
I don't know what that is, like a screenplay or something like that sitting over there. I think someone just threw it out in the park, I hope someone picks this up and calls me. Anyway, you look very adorable. You look like you might be trouble, but you look...
Trouble? I'm definitely trouble.
Oh, okay, well, okay, I'm glad we just get that out of the way right up front. I have to go soon, but I'm just a little curious about you. Okay. I'm Todd, you are...
The reason I think the hook is such a confusing thing is it's not a binary thing. It's not completely unhooked to completely hooked. It's actually a process the girl goes through to getting hooked. Think about it this way. She doesn't go from he's a stranger to I like him, just like a flip of the script. What happens is there's a process, right? There's a process of warming up and overcoming whatever resistance she have to maybe meeting a stranger, whatever fear or trepidation that may exist there. So essentially it's this. First of all, do you have her attention? In game, if you don't have her attention, you have nothing. Okay, you absolutely have got to have her attention. Nothing else can happen without it. Next, does she care? Does she feel that what you're talking about has some kind of relevance to her? Is it important to her on some level? Does it make sense as something that she should pay attention to? Okay. Next is she somehow compelled? Is there something motivating her to not resist? Because you have to understand meeting a stranger has inherent risks. Meeting a stranger is inherently taking up your time. Meeting a stranger is inherently maybe inconvenient or awkward. So there has to be some motivating factor. It doesn't have to be much, but some motivating factor to make you want to overcome that awkwardness and actually engage. And then finally, once that is in place, there has to be some kind of actual decision or escalation, which kind of locks it all in. Because right now you're in this kind of emotional state, right? You're in this emotional state of, okay, things are good in this moment, but if nothing happens, say that emotional state dissolves or think you have an awkward moment, then it's all gone. Okay, so that's very nebulous. Let me make that into 4 very concrete steps and stages for you. Stage 1, focus. You must get her to pay attention to you. Stage 2, relevance. She needs to feel that whatever you're saying or you as a person in some way have relevance or meaning or something in her life, right? You can speak to her in some way. So, for example, let's say a girl does not own a yacht and someone comes up to her with a yacht cleaning service. That's not relevant to her. She's not in the market for that in any way, shape, or form. But let's say someone has a chronically messy kitchen and someone comes to her with a new kitchen cleaner, maybe that is relevant to her. Okay, that's a very kind of general idea of relevance, but the point is it needs to have some tie to her in some way. Next though is she compelled? Does she have some emotion behind it, right? So maybe she has the messy kitchen, but she doesn't care. Well, now she has no desire to solve that problem. Or maybe she has the messy kitchen, she doesn't believe that your thing will work anyway, so she doesn't give a shit then, right? She doesn't care, there's no emotion, there's no compulsion to overcome whatever resistance. And then finally, in the case of the kitchen cleaner example, which I just made up on the spot, then there would have to be some kind of sale or transaction, because if you leave without selling her the kitchen cleaner, she's not gonna come pursue you later and change her mind and whatever, because a lot more effort has to transpire then, okay? So here we have focus, relevance, emotion, and decision. Or if you spell out the acronym, it's easy to remember, FRED, like the man's name, Fred. Okay? Focus, relevance, emotion, decision. If you can make a girl go through that process, then you are going to subtly, gradually, in a non-pushy way, in a non-startling way, a very natural way, get her to go from stranger to interested enough. Now, a point I do want to make here, and a point about hooking in general, is there are various hooks. People talk about the social hook, which is kind of the point where she'd rather you stay than you leave. And then there's the sexual hook, which is kind of like the point where she's socially hooked and there's some man to woman nature to it. And then there's maybe the input hook, you could call it, or the committed hook, which is where if you were to leave, she'd actually do work to keep you there, or she'd actually try and keep you from leaving. Or like if you were to turn away, she would feel like emotionally distraught over the fact that you're leaving. Okay, so that's 3 different levels of hook. But this same process can exist for all those different levels of hook. For the social hook, the amount of relevance and emotion is not very high. For the sexual hook, the amount of relevance and emotion is slightly higher. And for that committed hook, where she's willing to take action, like positive affirmative action on your behalf, that's a higher level again of relevance and emotion. But in any case, it's the same process. Do you have her attention? Does she feel that this is relevant to her or her life in some way? Is there some motivation of some kind? And then is there a decision made? What I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna show you the same clip of infield that I just showed you at the start, but now I'm gonna break it down, explaining to you when I have her focused, where the relevance is coming from, what the emotional compulsion and what the emotional component is, and then where the decision is made. And this is an example, it's a very simple example of just that first social hook. It's actually in between the social and sexual hook because there's a little bit of man to woman as well, but it's just the starter hook. So let's have a look at that footage right now. So let's look at this through the model of the FRED, FRED, or Focus, Relevance, Emotion, Decision model. Here we go.
Hey, excuse me. Hey.
There you go, focus. I said hi, I got her attention, she turned towards me. Now, I could definitely lose the focus very easily, and that does happen in a lot of instances, but for now at least, I do have her focused.
Sorry, you look adorably studious right now. Yeah.
Okay, so there, you look adorably studious right now. Why is that relevant? Well, the most important reason is that it's about her, and that's kind of a cheat code to relevance. If it's about her, it's likely relevant in some way. And you notice her reaction, that she had an emotional reaction to it. It means that she is responding in some way to it being about her, or she's having, it's had some kind of impact on her. She's noticed the relevance of it. So now I have at least a little bit of relevance.
I saw the screenplay over there. I'm like, is that the last one she wrote?
The what?
I don't know what that is, like a screenplay or something like that sitting over there. I think someone like just threw it out in the park. Like, I hope someone picks this up and calls me.
Now that whole part had nothing to do with this model necessarily, although it had a chance, right? So in an interaction early on, it's good if it's not just all game. It's good if there's some normality and general conversation thrown in. So this serves that purpose. When I did say, is that the last one she wrote? There was a possibility she could take that as a tease, or she should take that as an opportunity to involve herself or tell me more about herself as a writer or something like that. But it wasn't necessarily going to do that. So it was a chance to maybe deepen the relevance and maybe get some emotion, but it didn't necessarily have to be that. It ended up just being general conversation, and that's fine. So this part was not a progression in the FRED model. It was just kind of filler conversation.
Anyway, you look very adorable. You look like you might be trouble, but you look...
Trouble? I'm definitely trouble.
Oh, okay, well...
So right there, now we have some emotion. You look adorable, which is a clear compliment. You look like trouble, which is an emotionally charged word. These types of words like trouble, devious, bad for me, these kinds of phrases have this sort of sexual connotation, this dark connotation, but at the same time have this very sort of flattering and like kind of powerful sexual connotation. And so I'm hinting at a little bit of man to woman nature. And the fact that she responded to the frame and said, I'm definitely trouble, jumped into my frame with me, means that she's engaging kind of with the flirtation, engaging with the emotion just a little bit. So now I have focus, relevance, and emotion. Now, are these deep amounts of relevance and deep amounts of emotion? No, but they should be enough to go ahead and escalate things just a little bit.
Okay, I'm glad we just get that out of the way right up front. I have to go soon, but I'm just like a little curious about you.
Okay.
I'm Todd. You are.
And so there's a couple passive decisions. One, the decision to let me sit down. Two, the decision to exchange names with me. So now we've gone from strangers who don't know anything about each other to now we've exchanged names, we've engaged in a little bit of a friendly conversation, and now I'm sitting with her, right? And so at this point, we're at a place where it would be much more awkward for the interaction to end and then for it to continue. And we've both engaged in it beyond just a strict stranger to stranger capacity, or even slightly beyond just a strict friend to friend capacity. So I hope you enjoyed that breakdown. Hopefully it made it really make sense to you what this process is, and that it is a process, that it isn't just like she goes from hello to I love him, right? Or hello to I want to talk to him. it is a step-by-step process, and there's an emotional arc, right? A journey that the girl goes on. It can be very fast. It can occur over a fraction of a second or over a couple minutes, but there is this journey that she goes on from stranger to someone I'd engage in conversation with. The other point I want to make to you, I already mentioned the different levels of hook, right? So that there's the social hook, sexual hook, and then the committed hook. But you can also look at all of game as a series of hooking, right? So you can look at it as hooked enough to talk to you, hooked enough to invest in the conversation and qualify herself, hooked enough to kiss you, hooked enough to go home with you, hooked enough to sleep with you, hooked enough to be in a relationship with you, and on and on and on. And the same model actually would apply. You need to keep her attention. If you lose her attention, the game has stopped. You need to maintain that you are relevant to her in whatever capacity you're looking for that hook in. You need to have enough emotion and compulsion and drive in her in her emotional nature and in her experience that she wants to go along with whatever that hook is, and then you need to actually kind of close for that decision and make sure that she takes action in the real world when the moment is right. So just to reiterate one more time, the model is what? FRED, focus, relevance, emotion, decision. Get her attention, make it relevant, get some emotions, get a decision. And again, this can be used not only for the hook, but for all of game. So take it, use it, you're gonna love it, it's gonna help you massively. See you next time.